city of Lagos once a
still
dog
a
has all roots.
Be the first to know. From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa, we break the news.
We are one Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News,
Welcome to Core
a
TV News.
24-hour news station.
Good morning and welcome to Core Digest. I am Martins Dixon. This is our flagship discussion program where we look at current issues that are making headlines and on the lips of Nigerians and people living outside this country, and we bring it forth to discussion with analysts and specialists helping us to analyze the situations and ground. This morning we will be looking at the Boko Haram and the Caliphate Declaration. Is full-scale military offensive the answer? That is the topic we'll be looking at this morning. And I have two gentlemen here in the studio that are going to help us out with discussions. I have Dipo Olayokun. Welcome to Core Digest.
Yes, Martins, good morning. Yes, good morning.
And we have Charles, a.k.a. Public Affairs Analyst.
Good morning, Martins, and a very good morning to you, viewers.
Well, thank you. Dipo Olayokun is a political analyst. This morning we're looking at Boko Haram and the Caliphate Declaration. We're looking at this full-scale military offensive, the answer. But before we go to the full-scale military offensive, I want to ask you, Dipo, how did we get to the point where the Boko Haram insurgents are declaring a caliphate or a territory belonging to themselves?
Yes, that's a very good question and a very salient point that we should be discussing. How did we get to this level? We got to this level because we left undone what we should have done at the appropriate time. Right from the onset, when the Boko Haram issue started, we kept deceiving ourselves as a nation by approximating this thing to so many issues. Some said it's a political agenda on the part of the Northerners. Some said it's an Islamic agenda on the part of some Northerners. But unfortunately, while all this dilly-dallying were going on, those people continued to dig in because they knew what they wanted from the beginning. The problem of Boko Haram did not start today or yesterday. It started very many years back. You know, there is these feelings among some extremist Islamists that probably all over the world they have been shortchanged, perhaps taking its root in the ancient history of the Bible and the Quran. That is why you have movements like Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab. Now we have ISIS. We have Hamas. And all of a sudden, we have been having this kind of a thing in the country. Maybe Nigerians have forgotten. There's the need for us to remind ourselves. There was a time in this country when we had the Maitasini riots. All these things were geared towards one thing. These people believe that in the conventional state of every country, there is a need for them to carve out a territory for themselves. And more of recent is this ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. These are people that believe they need to carve out their own territory or republic from two different countries of Iraq and Syria. Just of recent, we had the case of some elements within the Al-Shabaab that took over a section of Mali. Interestingly, Nigeria had a role to play in dismantling that structure. When Boko Haram started, these people, they didn't leave us in any doubt as to what they wanted. They said they wanted their own Islamic state. Because they believed, by virtue of experience, that most of their leaders that we see as northern elders have betrayed them. Many of them are educated in the Western way. Many of them studied abroad. Their children are still studying abroad. And they look at their lifestyle and they said, no, this is not the lifestyle that Allah ordained for us to live. So they came to the conclusion that probably the problem is because they had Western education. That was where the case of Boko Haram came up. That book, that is whether education is haram. Haram in Islam is something that you could not touch. But Nigerians, and especially people in government, maybe they knew, but they continue to play the ostrich. And these people continue to dig in. Maybe as the program progresses, we'll be able to bring out a lot of issues.
Okay, let me ask you, Charles, now. Yes. Now, Dipo said they felt shortchanged. They felt cheated at a point, and they said a big contrast between the life of the elite in the society and themselves. Now, what is the solution? What would have been done to have prevented the situation getting aggravated to this point that a group of people are taking over territories and say, we want to take over this to belong to us? What would have been done to have closed the gap or to have given them hope in a country like Nigeria?
Very, 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 very easy. Let me just go back to the years of bad governance. Let's go back to the years of deprivation. Let's go back to the days of neglect, looting, rascality, irresponsibility on the part of our leaders. Not living up to their responsibilities. Right? Now, all these things are, what we are currently experiencing are a fallout of decadence over the years. Instead of being responsive and responsible to the mandate that the leaders have gotten on the platter of gold, now they abdicated their responsibility, allowed Almajiris to come in and take charge of the whole environment, making them to grow from infancy to these monstrous terror groups that are now a challenge to the entire, not just Nigeria alone, to the whole world. Terrorism is now a global challenge. It's beyond Nigeria and the Nigerian factor and the Nigerian territory alone. Our president has, by today, will be meeting with the Chadian, people, yeah, over the issue of security. We can't sleep. Over 6 local government areas have been taken over by the insurgents in Borno State. I have severally challenged the government to let us know if we have lost Borno State. As it is now, nobody can authoritatively say that the military is in control. What we keep getting is the governor, that's the Shetima, is jetting out for one meeting, one media interview, one foreign engagement or the other, not staying back to address the challenge that is supposed to, the issues it's supposed to deal with.
Now, how could those issues be addressed? Now, we're looking at the situation that has already been aggravated.
Yes.
Now, how could those issues have been prevented or would have been taken care of before it even got to this point of people taking over territories?
Housing. So many of our northern brothers are destitute. This is our collective heritage. This is our economy that is being mismanaged. These guys cannot boast of 3 square meals. They are destitute in their own countries. If I engage you as a leader, if I give you my mandate to manage the resources of our country in the interest of all, and you are now siphoning the money to do other things, to do things that will not make any meaningful impact, what do you expect? There's always a price to pay. We are paying the price now at the detriment of the economy, of the Nigerian economy. What is the size of the Nigerian economy? Yes, the economy has been rebased. What is the size? What is the returns? What is the export level? What are we gaining?
Now, we were presently the largest economy in Africa.
Interesting.
So to say.
Yes. At 500 and something GDP, what does that translate to? What is the quality of life? What is the cost of living like? It's clear. Yes, the economy is big on paper. But go to the streets of Nigeria, everywhere. You see poverty, pain written on the faces of almost every Nigerian.
Okay, Dipo, could this be the reason why we have this Boko Haram uprising? Just like Charles is saying, the pain and poverty and destitution, the desperateness in the hearts of people up there in the north. Could we say the Northeast has it worst, and that is why this uprising came forth?
I used to give an example of a friend of mine who was a Briton as a friend. Sometime in 1998 December, I was in London. Then my friend took me to his friend's house, who is a Briton. And we got talking along the line of, that my friend is a Nigerian. He has a broken home. He married a Briton. When they got to court, he was able to prove that his wife was irresponsible. She was living a wayward life. So she was given the custody of the children. That my friend was not doing anything as at 1998. What he was doing is to take care of the children, prepare them, take them to school, come back home, prepare their lunch, go and bring them back from school, give them lunch, prepare them for siesta and evening classes, and he was collecting money on each of those children. That's what they do. And I got talking with his friend, who is a Briton. I said, why are you wasting your money on this able-bodied guy who has certificates, but it's not working? You know what the Briton told me? He said, that is why we don't have area boys in our country as you have in your country. This problem of Boko Haram and what a literary giant called the drag of the society, they're everywhere in Nigeria. Why did we have Niger Delta militant and the militancy? Why? Now many of those guys that were bombing, vandalizing, what do you call it, pipelines, they are now billionaires. They now fly in private jets. They now have universities outside Nigeria. They now have lucrative contracts of, what do you call it, supervising or monitoring the pipelines. And they are smiling to bank in billions. Do you have any restiveness in the Niger Delta again? We don't. Go all over Nigeria. You will, like Charles said, you will see Nigerians that are not happy. Discontented Nigerians. They are like a keg of gunpowder. At the slightest provocation, they explode. Don't you take buses in Lagos? Ordinary, give me my 20 naira change, will result in people exchanging blows. It is not because there is an inbuilt anger that is brewing in the body of an average Nigerian. Some years back, a former IGP, Sir Mike Okiro, I think he was the IGP under Yaradua or thereabout, came out and said, there's a problem in Nigeria. Al-Qaeda elements are infiltrating the country. That was about 10 or 8 years back. We didn't do anything. When this Boko Haram thing started, that's why I said we left undone what we should have done. When this thing started like what they call insurgency. And people they told us what they wanted to do. That we want to Islamize Nigeria. Excuse me, you cannot Islamize Nigeria until you take over the territory of Nigeria. But our military intelligence people were sleeping. You can't blame them because you cannot give what you don't have. Instead of the government attacking this thing from the source, they started playing politics into it with it. Or it's because Jonathan from South is the head of state. That's why people in the north. And they are forgotten. Have you looked at the breakdown of the election results of 2011? And you want to tell me whether it was only the South that brought the man to be the president? Oh, it's because he's a South man. That's why they want to make the country ungovernable for him. We allow this thing to fester. Later, oh, it is APC. Some people say it is APC. And these people continue to dig in. Instead of looking at the source, what is the problem? What are the targets or the aims of these guys? How do we nip it in the bud? Now, they said they have declared full-blown war on Boko Haram. What were we looking before these guys got to this stage? These guys were acquiring ammunitions. It is in this country. They told us that Boko Haram will move in the convoy of about 500 jeeps in a territory that's under military, under emergency rule. And we didn't ask the president a quick questions.
Now,
How is this thing happen? How is it possible?
How possible is it for them to acquire ammunitions and then to amass such large cache of ammunitions within the country
Why do we have DMI, Directorate of Military Intelligence? Why do we have DSS, Directorate of State Security? If you look at the contents of these agencies, you will know that Nigeria has a problem. Let me give you an instance. What is the duty of DSS, Directorate of State Security? Is to go underground and sniff information. That's their function. I remember when we were growing up, they used to have what they call a CID. In fact, when you are in a beer parlor, you are afraid of even exchanging your colleague that you are sharing bottles of beer with in discussion because you don't know if maybe the next guy sitting to you might be a CID person. But these days, what do you have? You have a DSS, Director of State Security, whose spokesperson, Marilyn Oga, will come on there and tell Nigerians that somebody wanted to bribe them with 40 million naira in Osun election, and they allowed the person to go.
Without arresting the person.
You can imagine the type of DSS that you have. You have the DSS that will tell you that a member of House of Representatives was given $620,000 bribe. They call it a sting operation. They allow the man to go. After 3 months, when the man must have spent the money, you now came and said it was a sting operation. How do you expect that kind of CSS to give information that will help Nigeria? A former governor in Nigeria, military governor, Colonel Umaru, said he wondered the type of information they give the president. He said about 5 months ago, there was a security report that was sent to the president that he, Colonel Umaru, held a meeting with some northern leaders in his house or in his farm where they were plotting how to block Jonathan. He said in the report they gave to the president, they list some names. And among the names they listed was a man who died 5 years ago. How could a man who died 5 years ago attend the meeting? So you can imagine why we get into this mess. Because people that are in a position of authority are like round peg in, what do you call it, round holes.
Now, Charles, do you agree with Dipo's position that probably the security agencies have failed and that is why we're having this insurgency getting to this unbearable level?
I unrepentantly agree with him wholeheartedly. Right? Wholeheartedly. Not too long ago, just few days ago, an allegation was made by a media platform that certain persons are suspected, suspected to be, financiers, sponsors of Boko Haram. Within interval of 48 hours, the DSS has come out to say, that's the DSS, Meriloga has come out to say, no. They have come out to give him protection. No. Why don't you take your time and investigate? Come out with the real position of things. You have come out to tell us that, no, he's not identified with it. We don't have a problem with that. Okay, who? Tell us who are the sponsors. You want to solve this problem? Nip it in the bud. Go to the root of the matter. Who are the sponsors? Deal with the sponsors and see if this problem will not be a thing of the past.
Now,
somebody is bankrolling this thing. Somebody is importing this huge cache of arms. Somebody is registering these vehicles. Somebody is remitting monies through the CBN, through the banks. Somebody is doling out this fund, whether internally or externally. Somebody is paying for this menace. Somebody is deriving joy, pleasure, is deriving joy and pleasure in putting Nigeria into this state of disrepute among community of nations. Who are the sponsors? Government has a duty to tell us the sponsors of Boko Haram.
Now, let's look at this analogy. You guys are talking about the security system failing, and that is why we got to this level. Now, when we look at the past records of the Nigerian military, able to, just like Dipo said earlier, able to curtail insurgency and terrorism in other parts of Africa, and why would it be difficult for us to do it back home if we could help stabilize other African nations?
Greed, deceit.
So that greed did not stop us from putting things in order in other African nations, and it's stopping us from
Selfish
putting our
interest
state in order.
here. Selfish interest. Greed. Deceit. We are deceiving ourselves. We have politicized everything. All forms of whatever dimension of external intervention by our friends, the Western powers, will still experience a huge brick wall because of our internal challenge of deception. Politicizing the whole process. We are not fighting this war. It's lip service, and I am not repentant about it. It's lip service and waste of Nigerian resources.
Now, before I go to deeper lip service, and we have people dying every day on both sides.
Over 15,000 Nigerians are gone. We have lost precious life. Both youths, young ones, cradles, married, single Nigerians, future Nigerians. We don't place premium on lives in this country, and it's so disgusting.
Now, Dipo, let me take it to you. What does it mean for the nation if Boko Haram claims to have a caliphate and it stands? What does it mean for this country?
It means that, first of all, what do they call them? These demographers, or whatever they call it, they have to, first of all, look at the map of Nigeria. The map of Nigeria that some of us parade today is no more the map of Nigeria.
No, how?
One, some section of Bakassi have been given to South Africa, so Cameroon, and we still regard that one as part of Nigeria. If you can look at the map of Nigeria, some part of Nigeria has been ceded to Cameroon, and if you still look at the map, it's still part of Nigeria. Now, if Boko Haram has taken over Borno State, then you remove it, that means it was to alter the map of Nigeria. On a more serious note, Martins, the problem, the war, I can't call it insurgency again. The war of Nigeria versus Boko Haram is a blessing in disguise. Because it's like we were living in a fool's paradise all this while. Had it been it was even Cameroon or Chad that decided to attack Nigeria, they would have taken some territories of Nigeria. Now the Boko Haram war has given us an opportunity to assess ourselves. Nigerians have been going out to Mali, Sierra Leone, Sudan, and they have been performing feats because most of the ammunitions were provided by United Nations. In terms of boosting morals, these guys were being paid in dollars. So they had every reason to even give up their best to fight a war. Nigerian military was not like this before. Don't forget, I made mention of one Matasini riot. I don't know, those who are around them will know what it means. It was a full-scale war. And it took a courageous military man, General Muhammadu Buhari, to quell that crisis then, using the same Nigerian army. Some years back, I think it was 1983 or 1982, the military in Cameroon invaded Nigeria and took over almost what the World Court had decided to them now. I think the chief of army staff then was one man, Wushishi. And the GOC of that territory happens to be the same General Buhari of today. When General Buhari waited for his commander to give him the go-ahead, nothing was coming because they were waiting for the president, Shehu Shagari, to give them the go-ahead. You know, Shehu Shagari is a gentle person. He didn't like war, just like Jimmy Carter of America. When General Buhari waited for order, he didn't get it. He marched his boys into Cameroon. He drove those boys back to Cameroon. He was attacking Cameroon territory. The Cameroonian president, I think it was Ahidjo, had to call the French president, who called Shagari that, please, call your boys to order. That is what they call Nigerian military. Nigeria was doing it before.
So, but we have this same person you have mentioned alive today.
But he's not in the military.
No,
We still have evidence of that.
Evidence
Like that in the military.
Why can't we tap into his expertise and experience?
Forget about that. That's politics. But we should begin to ask ourselves, after that time, what happened to our military? Immediately after the Oka coup, and there are IBB survived the coup, what the man set out to do was to decimate the army. He rendered our army comatose, just like what they did to the Nigerian police. How did they kill the Nigerian police? During the 1983-79 election, the then IGP was Adeusi. In fact, he got ammunition from the military, from the then head of state, to even confront the army. When the army came, the first thing they did was to decimate the police. Now, police cannot even quell a riot. Police cannot even fight armed robber. What do we have? We have JTF. You have Operation Mesa, where you have all the military men. Men that are supposed to be fighting in Zambisa, they are busy in Lagos chasing armed robbers, stopping buses, collecting 15 naira for them. You want them to go and fight Zambisa? They cannot. After that, Abacha came. Because these guys knew how they got to the position, they staged coup. What they did was to render the military incapable of doing anything. It got to a stage that even Nigerian military officers were afraid of going to the mess, because you could go to the mess and they tell you the following day that you went there to plan a coup. They have been killing the morale of the military for some years. They have been stopping buying ammunition for them. Not that they were not allocating money to them, but some people were deliberately pocketing the money so that the army will not be able to stage coup. That was how we find ourselves in this position. What do we do? What we need to do, first of all, is to boost the morale of the army. Some months back, he's a soldier boy. I call him soldier boy because he's my boy, in that terminology anyway. He told me that he was going for a 2-week training. I'm talking about 6-7 months ago. That he was going for a 2-week training because they wanted to post them to Southern Sudan to go and maintain peace there. After the training, I expected him to have gone to Sudan. I just saw him. I said, "Come." So, but what are you doing around? Haven't you concluded your training? He said, "We concluded the training last Sunday, sir." That they said they should report the following day. Sunday. No, they finished the program on Friday, Saturday. They said they should report on Sunday to get their logistics, how they will move to Sudan. He said, but when they got there on Sunday, they told them that a signal has come from the army headquarters that they are no more going to Sudan, but they are going to Maiduguri. The guy said, I'm quoting him, that within immediately, that they started calling their godfather in the army to remove their name from the people going to Sambisa, to Maiduguri. I said, what do you mean?
No, but let me ask this question at this point, when we painted this scenario. Okay. But these same people were willing to go to South Sudan. He
was willing because they will be paid in dollars.
And they are not willing.
The guy said they started calling their godfather in the military, and that by the following morning, half of the name on the list have been removed, including his name.
So people who were eager to go to South Sudan to fight the war,
he says, I don't want to go and commit suicide. I said, he now sat me down and told me a lot of things about Nigerian army. That is one. About 2 weeks later, I went to the bank. I saw one boy, a soldier boy, very amiable, joking, lovely guy. He came into the bank and he was greeting everybody. Hey, good morning, how are you? One guy said, go and sit down. You are in Lagos, go and fight in Sambisa. He said, Oga, if not joke, I will stop more. I thought the guy was joking. After he finished his transaction, I followed him outside. As a journalist, I said, come, what happened? You said, if not joke. He said, Oga, if I am your son, will you pray that I be posted to my degree? I said, what happened? The guy told me a lot of things about Nigerian army. First of all, we need to rediscover Nigeria. 2, we need to boost the morale of the boys. I always cite an example. When America was on the trail of this man, Osama bin Laden, and they sent their military to Afghanistan to go and flush out the Taliban, I will just be in the newsroom. We will just see all of a sudden breaking news, CNN, President Bush in Afghanistan. To do what? To create a camaraderie with the military, the President of America, to give them that sense of belonging. At times in December, the Secretary of State will be with the military to stage their own form of Christmas party. Since this problem started in Sambisa or Maiduguri, when did your president visit that place? Or even the Minister of Defense, when? They will not go there. And you want these boys to go there my brother.
All right, let me take it to Charles.
Let me come in from this angle. What has been happening to the defense budget for the past, say, 4 or 5 years? It is steadily increasing. But today, the army is saying they don't have equipment to fight this war. But the budget keeps increasing. Nobody's asking questions. Almost 1 trillion is annually allocated for defense budgets. Nobody's asking questions. Not too long ago,
the Senate said it's not up to 1 trillion.
What is the difference between 980 and 1 trillion? What is the difference? Now there is no equipment to work. There's everything is obsolete. Nobody's asking questions. Where's this money? Nobody's asking questions.
No, probably after we finish fighting the insurgents, we will begin to ask questions.
Do you know one funny?
Let me ask you.
Do you know one funny? Let me just shift this in. They said they gave journalists freedom of information bill, but in anything that has to do with security and defense, you cannot hide under it to come and ask questions. Where are we going?
No, probably because of classified information. So that
that's why nobody can question this budget you're talking about. Nobody.
So now, but let me ask you this question, Charles. Now, full-scale military offensive, is it the answer to fighting this terrorism?
Well, in part, yes. But the major thing is, let's deal with the sponsors. Government cannot tell me that they don't know the sponsors.
But the full-scale military offensive, is it going to give us the results?
Of course, at this point, yes. At this point, yes. Because we are almost losing Borno State. If not, I can't authoritatively say we have lost Borno State, but we are almost losing Borno State. So, full-scale offensive. In fact, if possible, remove the governor of that state and let the military have total control of Borno State.
Are the military not in control?
The military is not in the control. Everything is still politicized.
The state of emergency is
politicized. It's politicized. The military cannot work effectively without bureaucracy. Approval, you have to wait for approval from this, approval for that. Now defense, not too long ago there was so much media hype. The government is shopping for $1 billion to equip the armory, you know, to beef up military hardware. Whether that has been sorted or not is still an issue. How government is to fund that is another as a dimension to it. But the problem still remains. We are yet to deal with the sponsors. Deal with the sponsors, then we would have solved 50% of it.
Now, just recently, within the last 48 to 24 hours, now we learned there are offensives in Burma, yes, and is pushing the insurgents out. But these insurgents have also been expanded their operations into Adamawa State. Now, dislodging Madagali local government, taking over Gulag, and people are fleeing, and there are reports that they are marching towards Michika and Mubi. Now, you can look at the whole scenario. Now, they're taking over this territory, we're dislodging them and pushing them out, and they're taking orders. Where are we heading to?
Because the borders are porous.
Now, these are not borders. This is within the territory.
50, these guys, they reinforce. They come in thousands again. Because the borders, nothing is being done about the border. Why don't you close the border? The economy is already, is almost in comatose. Close the border completely and deal with it squarely. Deal with the sponsors. We know the solution. Like, our leaders know the solution. It's not as if they don't know the solutions. Whatever we are saying here is just to maybe buy time. They know the solution.
And if the solution is known, why is it not being effected?
The solution as to how we can cope this.
Or you don't buy Charles's position that the solution is known by the leaders.
I think everybody knows the solution to this problem.
Not everybody, I don't think everybody knows.
Yes, of course, yes, of course. But there are factors militating against finding solutions to these problems. Come to think of it, if I were to be a member of National Assembly, I will impress it on other members. If the president has asked $1 billion, let us give him. In simple arithmetic, how much is $1 billion? That was 160 billion naira. How much is that compared to what they have been getting in the past few years? They have been getting at times 980 billion naira, close to 1 trillion, 993 billion naira, close to 1 billion, 970 something billion naira. They have never had anything less than 500 billion naira in the past 4 years. Total that, it will give you over 3 trillion naira. What 3 trillion naira cannot do, and you think 160 billion naira can do, let us give him. The problem is this, Martins. Some people are benefiting from this, whatever you call it, insurgency or war. Do you know what it means to have 983 billion naira within some circle of people in Nigeria? Within the presidency, Minister of Defense, Minister of State for Defense, all the service chiefs. You know what it means. And this is a budget, nobody can question how you spend it. That is why we are in this state. What is the duty of the Directorate of Military Intelligence? Now,
how can you vote money and say no one should be questioned on how it is being spent? If you should buy one thing, it should be there. You should buy that. That is
what they will tell you. That even journalists cannot ask questions under this FY.
No, but even within the military rank,
who are the people that will sign? Who are the people that will ask the questions? Go and look at the lifestyle of some of these ex-service chiefs. You wonder whether they are if they are not even Richard and Dangote we are talking about. I'm telling you, go closer to these people. You will be amazed as how stupendously rich they are. Where did they get the money from? Nobody can question them. That is Nigeria for you. Now we have failure of institutions. You are going into a battle with what they call the so-called ragtag. That was the name they were giving Boko Haram before, ragtag. And you don't know their numerical strength. Such that Nigerian army will make what they call tactical maneuver into Cameroon, fighting Boko Haram. Not fighting America, not fighting Ghana, fighting Boko Haram. When the firepower was too much for our boys, they made what they call tactical maneuver into another country. That is straying. That those people now arrested them, disarmed them, go and lodge them in one school. Nigeria should be ashamed of ourselves. When you remember Nigeria of yesteryears. I was telling you what was happening when Nigeria invaded Cameroon because they strayed into our territory. That the Cameroonian president had to call the French president, to call our president, that please call Buhari to order. Nigeria military has now become a bunch of people that would not, 480 Nigerian army soldiers ran into Cameroon because they were faced with firepower that was more than their own. And we have a country that was budgeting close to 1 trillion naira every day, every year for defense. There is the need for us to rejig our DMI. Let them continue to gather intelligence. Instead of pursuing Operation Mesa, Operation, what do they call it all over the states? You have Nigerian military now doing the duty of police. They have become relaxed. One, let them rejig the DMI. Then two, there is need for us to sit down. What is the military strategy of Nigeria? This thing has been on for 5 years, and Nigerian military could not quell this thing. It's a disgrace. For 5 years, and interestingly, these people they are improving. All right.
Now, but are these the solutions?
We are
looking at the full scale military offensive.
No, we
that
need
has
it.
Been ordered by the president.
We need it. No. Then we need the carrot approach, like Wason just said. Wason just is general in the army, up to tomorrow. Forget about his successes. This man said carrot approach. Carrot. When America wants to fight you, America will be dropping foods, so that people will now move against the rebel. That is tactics of war. America will be dropping food. Because if you are hungry, you can decide to go towards the rebels. So let us use the carrot and stick.
All right. We'll take a short break and then we'll be back to continue looking at the full military offensive, if it is the solution to the Boko Haram terrorism. Viewers, it's been Core Digest and we're looking at Boko Haram, and the Caliphate Declaration is full military offensive the answer. We'll take a short break and we'll be back to continue. Please don't go away.
Glad to have you join us on another edition of
The Political Arena, the most detailed and incisive political show.
If you are a sitting governor and the opposition is able to stomach structure against you, that means you are wicked to the people.
Give me 20 minutes to move or they will shoot me.
He has no chance for survival. If he likes himself, this is the best time to get out before he perishes.
The PDP as a ruling party has failed.
So anybody who thinks that government will fold his hands and allow miscreants to take over the streets of Osun State and cause havoc is deceiving himself.
the good, bad, ugly, and beautiful sides of the Nigerian political system. Join me every Sunday at 9:15 p.m. on OTV News.